Just here, just as I said, the air kicked on. I know it floods there and Nelson, Springfield.
It floods too, like most of the flooding there from the river. The river gets high for whatever.
High tide and heavy rain.
Occasionally, you'll have
Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Orange Park Town Council Workshop, Tuesday, March 10th, 2026 at 6 p.m. We do have a quorum. We have the entire council here, town manager, the finance director, and the public works director. This is all about engagement for everybody. We're trying to work through this and figure out what's the best thing to do. So if you have a question, raise your hand. There's no limit on speaking. We just want to make sure everybody gets to speak if they have something to say, but be courteous to everyone else also. There's no reason to be in here yelling or any of that. We're just trying to get through this and try to do what's right for our town. And at this time, I will turn it over to our town manager.
Hi, for those who don't know, I'm Joe Taylor. I'm the town manager as of, I was appointed December 1st, 2025. So if I haven't met you yet, feel free to stop by my office or say hello, but my name is Joe Taylor. I'll just kind of echo what Mayor Anderson said. We're all looking for the same thing, which is the betterment of Orange Park overall. So I implore and ask that civility be maintained. Civility is the key to open dialogue. We can disagree. Let's do it. If we're going to disagree, that's fine, but let's do it respectfully and keep any personal attacks or that aspect to non-existent would be wonderful. So just a reminder to maintain decorum and keep our civility there. We're here to learn more about it, to drive forward, to find out what the best route is for us overall. But again, sometimes by nature these can get sometimes can get contentious. But I think everybody here wants the same thing, which is the betterment of Orange Park overall. And so at that point, I'll go ahead and defer to Kyle Croce, who is our director of Public Works. He's been involved with this project from its infancy. So I'll let him start with kind of where we're at right now, and then we'll go into various questions and kind of go from there. So. Kyle?
Need to hold the mics closer to you.
Yeah, just mic very close.
Is that better?
Kyle Croce, Public Works Director. So what I'd like to do is go through the presentation. I think there might be a natural pause or break in the middle of the presentation. We can get questions, but if you allow me to go through it and through the thought process and design process, and I may be answering your questions in the next slide. So if we could, that'd be ideal to hold the questions to the end so that I can get as much information out and hopefully answer a lot of questions even before they're asked. So the first slide is really just an introduction. This is the Johnson Slough Culvert and Roadway Improvement Project. It's a key investment in strengthening the infrastructure and ensuring long-term resiliency for the town. The key's resiliency, and that's being able to withstand and recover from adversity, which are the impacts that we're basically experiencing. So we started, even through the workshops, understanding some key aspects of the design, and that was what was important to the town residents, the small town sense of community, the history, tree-lined streets and walkability, and as well as having this project move the town forward through its visioning 2040 goals. So why is the project important? The stormwater and roadway systems are aging. They no longer meet today's rainfall, flooding, or storm conditions. We're facing increased flooding, emergency repairs, and higher long-term costs. And the project addresses these vulnerabilities. So the purpose of the presentation, I wanted to go back and really talk about where we started. Again, it was basically the culmination of the impacts of Hurricane Irma, bringing the amount of storm and storm surge, approximately 25 homes damaged, as well as millions of dollars of infrastructure that was damaged that we're still dealing with. Council awarded a contract to Jones Edmonds for a complete stormwater master plan, established an ERU for stormwater revenue and accrue. 5 potential stormwater projects were identified, and Jones Edmonds was hired to complete the master plan and then do a maintenance plan and a vulnerability assessment plan through the DEP program. And then we were awarded the FDEP, Florida Department of Environmental Protection Resilient Florida Grant for implementation, which was a $14 million 50-50 grant. And the council approved the design build process with the bridge and the Ready Rock design. So understanding why we're talking about Johnson Slough, you can see the rainfall events, and the engineers do iterations of models, different types of rainfall events, 100-year, 24-hour, 100-year, 500-year, 50-year. They do different iterations of those models, and you can see the stormwater impact from the rainfall events. Basically, it's impacted through Dudley Branch and Johnson Slough. You can see in the diagram. So what's interesting about this project is this is also influenced by tidal, and so the resiliency grant is really geared toward communities that are influenced from tidal and stormwater. So that's the key. It's critical for preventing upstream flooding because of the stormwater impact and the tidal influence. So I wanted to talk about state-funded grant solutions, and we have a real rare one-time opportunity through the state grants. These grants, regardless of whether we participate, are there through the state program, through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. By utilizing those grants, by applying for those grants, we bring the tax dollars back to the town that are out there and significantly reduce the town's financial burden. So these improvements are designed to really serve everybody. Again, enhance drainage and reduce flooding, safer and more reliable roads for all those who use the roadway. Stronger utility infrastructure, a more resilient system for future storms, and really long-term protection for property and public safety. So we had comments and we had community concerns. We heard, we don't want Orange Park to change. We like things the way they've been. Don't fix what isn't broken. These improvements are not to change the identity. They're to fix the infrastructure that's deteriorated over time, to reduce the flood risk, to improve reliability, and protect homes and investments for future generations. I just wanted to include that. I know many have seen that, but the 2 pictures up in front, that's a sanitary line, the gravity main that runs down Plainfield, about 367 feet in from the north to south. it's saturated. Basically, that means the gravity sewer broke, and we have infiltration into the piping system. So, in addition to having that infiltration, it costs more on our infrastructure. It costs more for our lift station pumps. It costs more for our wastewater treatment plant. We're processing more and more infiltration. So again, this has occurred. This is happening. This slide is to show that really the state grant funding reduces the town's cost. It's avoiding a scenario where the town becomes more financially responsible for future costs, especially if we don't take advantage of the grant cycle. The improvements, again, are scheduled to reduce risk of flooding, improve the roadway, and strengthen the overall system. So this is the design purpose, core purpose of the design: flood mitigation, 50 to 100 year service life for the design, for what we're putting in place, and try and achieve the long-term benefits of flood resiliency. Jones Edmonds had gone and, as directed, was tasked with doing some different types of cost benefit analysis, cost cutting, value engineering. So you have that. I believe the town manager provided copies, so you can see the.
There are still some more up on the table. If there are, I tried to make as many as I could in a hurry. So there are some more available up here on this front table. If anybody would like to grab them, it has an increase. We have the original bid price, and then there's some other ones that we had asked for a kind of a low, medium, high situation. So if anybody wants them, there are some more up front here.
Yeah, and these are estimates from our owner's representative, the engineer, Jones Edmonds, and they do give us a good cost analysis of what the bridges will cost. If we did some economic cost cutting, changing the design, removing some of the projects, removing Carnes altogether, and then changing the design altogether and going back to culverts or open waterways. So I wanted to go into the design and how we got to the bridge. The purpose of the design was really straightforward: improve the roadway access during storms, protect the critical infrastructure, and provide a structure for a 50 to 100 year lifespan to utilize that grant funding. And so really the town council meeting on September 17th, 2024, the council directed to move forward with the recommended selected design, which were bridges. You can see there was unanimous support for that, and there was support from the public as well. So there's a lot that goes into the design for bridges. Again, I talked about what the engineers do with models and different storm events and different storm intensities. But again, this one is I wanted to provide this because it was critical on how we get to a bridge design and how we get to bridge heights. So again, there's two big components that the engineers have to look at, and that's tidal fluctuations and stormwater runoff. So large volumes of rainflow coming down through the basin and waters rising from the river. So because the opening of the bridge is dependent on those items, both the width and the height have to be large enough for water to safely move. If the bridge is too low or too narrow, water can't pass quick enough. If there's water backup, that could cause problems upstream. So the elevation, again, on the bridge and the width of the bridge depends on these factors. So I know we've gotten a lot of feedback on the bridge height. So I wanted to explain how, how I could understand it and try and have people understand as well. So based on the hydrology and the modeling, there are certain storm events you have to, in accordance with the district and DEP, that you have to design to. So 100-year flood elevation for Nelson and for Nelson Drive South and for Plainfield is 4 feet. So that elevation's at 4 when the water is at 100-year flood. Engineering standards and DEP there are common accepted practices for what freeboard is, and freeboard is it's the level or safety margin above the elevation. So you can see for Nelson South and Plainfield, the minimal vertical clearance with a 20-foot wide bridge is 3 to 3.5 feet over the 100-year flood elevation. So we're talking, if we start at 4, that 3 feet puts us to 7 feet, and that would be the bottom of the bridge, 7. You get 2 feet basically for construction of the bridge. The top of the bridge would be 9. So again, we're not randomly selecting, oh, let's make a bridge this high. It's based on the tidal influences, the flooding, the requirements for the 100-year flood, 500-year flood storm events, and the design considerations on width and height. I'm stuck. oh, there you go. Is that it? Okay. All right, so again, want to talk about bridge versus culvert comparison. Want to talk about design life for both, considering what is the best cost benefit for the project. A bridge, you have 75 to 100-year design life, better hydraulic capacity, lower long-term maintenance, and wildlife passage. Culverts are 40 to 50-year design life, lower upfront costs, higher maintenance and frequency, and more flood risk and damage. So I installed those 2 little cartoon pictures so it's kind of easier to see what we're talking about. Again, those bridge heights and the culvert heights could be the same, but what we're talking about is the flat elevation of Florida, the tidal influence, and what we would get from culverts versus bridges. So I wanted to put this together as a life cycle cost analysis for a 50-year and 100-year design. These are rough estimates that I've done research on, that the engineers have done research on. So if you said a bridge cost $8 million versus a culvert, in 50 years, those are the life cycle cost analysis based on repairs that are needed, based on frequency of cleanouts, emergencies, responses, life cycle cost of the structure itself. Again, going to 100-year, you look at bridge costs for life cycle at 15 versus a culvert at 23. So doing these analysis on bridge designs, culverts are more maintenance, and it shows that they're, again, more expensive in the long run. So again, that was the planning assumptions directed from the council's meeting on September 17th, 2024, and designing the structures for 75 or 100-year lifespan was the goal. Resiliency considerations, again, and risk, flood overtopping for culverts is higher. Again, emergency response, costs for debris blockage and damage from debris. Maintenance are scheduled and understood for bridges. Culverts are more reactive. And again, that flat elevation in Florida and higher influence on tidal, the resiliency of the bridge improves hydraulic performance and is better in the cost analysis and cost benefit. So we wanted to talk about, I know there's a lot of information about funding and what we get from grant, and put together a funding strategy again to utilize a 20-year loan. I understand, we went through and got the recommended interest rate at 4.47. So these are estimates for the payback. The first, using the loan, the first 2 years, this is the amount to be paid back, 1.1 million over the year. Then when we get the reimbursement from the grant, we could pay off the 50%, basically the $7 million that we get from FDEP, and that reduces the payment costs for years 3 through 20 down to $554,000 per year. If we go to the next slide, we have alternative funding strategy, and so we know that we have reserve money, and we had scheduled that for additional projects upstream. We had scheduled money for River Road Bank stabilization, Winfred Drive, culverts at Morgan and San Robar, and then Shaw Pond, all upstream. Again, if we don't do the work downstream, there's really no point of going upstream because it's not going to fix any of the problems. So there are reserves, $5 million in reserves, and this puts together a loan strategy for utilizing the $5 million in reserves. Again, the first 2 years, we would still utilize the loan at the interest rate, paying back $1.1 million the first 2 years. Then with our reserve money and the payback from the resiliency grant, the $7 million plus the $5 million, basically we would finance $2 million over the next 3 to 20 years, or years 3 through 20, and it would be a $164,000 payment roughly. So we could go through a little more. I'm sure there's questions, and hopefully John can help me out with that too. And so this is really the last slide. Reducing liability and emergency costs, improve flood resiliency for residents and for the public access for roadways, and again, bridges are more resilient, better life cycle cost benefit analysis. And so the recommendation, from the engineers and myself, again, the lower upfront cost for a culvert just means higher long-term risk and costs. Staying with the bridge option offers a better financial operational resiliency and resilience over the life cycle. So again, our recommendation would be to move forward with the bridge design, get the best product for our buck, basically.
Okay, so at this point, between council, one area that I think everybody would like to see is on the additional proposals that we had requested at the council and our direction, to give us a couple of different options. Could you maybe differentiate to some extent on the differences between the current, and all of those finance numbers are based on the current and the original $14 million project that they had estimated. So obviously, if you change numbers and the reduction down, that's going to, change substantially those numbers. So while those are large numbers and that's the current, scope of it in the estimate, as we had asked them for a reduction in project scope and cost factor, can we, for the just overall education of the room, go through and kind of the difference between the low and the medium and then the high? Obviously, we know what we get for the 14, but what are the other two options and how do those differentiate, so that we can better understand where those cost differences are coming from?
Yeah, and I have Mary and Jay here for Jones Edmonds, and they can help me throughout that discussion. So again, as a 30% design cost estimate, we're really at 90% design plans, and again, that's with the bridge design through Superior. These are general numbers for what we see out of the construction costs and timing and materials. The 14 million is for, the 14.7 million is for the design that we have now, the 90% design plans. The next one that we have, that's 14.4, is mostly just eliminating Carnes altogether. Just leave it as it is. We're not going to do anything for it. We would go back to DEP in terms of a grant, and they're very understanding on how costs really regulate the project as well. They said, sometimes you just run out of money, you can't finish, or can't finish sections of the project. So we work with them and communicate that, that is what happened. The other ones are, and again, Mary can correct me if I'm wrong. We go to the, where do we go? What's the next one, Mary? Is it?
Second one is if we were to go to culverts.
For all three, right? So the next one is if we go to a culvert design for all three, Plainfield, Nelson, and Nelson South. So they would be multiple culverts. We'd go back for a redesign. We would go back to the district and DEP for permitting, and the schedule would definitely change. We would probably 8 months for redesign, and then another 3 to 6 months for permitting. So it puts the project another year out.
For clarity and to make sure everyone's on the same page, when you're referring to the 14.4, that was the elimination of Carnes that wasn't in the packet. Or is that?
Yeah. So the design for Carnes.
If you go through the pages so that they understand what they're following. Right?
Yeah.
So the page one on the handout that I provided, the total 14,769, is that the one as designed as is right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, and the 14.4 is the same design but with elimination of Carnes.
Yes, altogether.
Okay.
No work at Carnes.
Is just making sure that everybody's following so that we're all on the same page here and in that capacity. So then if we flip the page, that is the design with all culverts, correct? So the 12,929,992 on the being the median, low side 10,9, high side 14,8. That is all culvert with a redesign and a setback of approximately 6 to 8 months, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then that would make the low end. Could you explain what the difference is between that one and the other two bridge culvert type situation? And
Which one is that one? The low end? Oh, the last one?
yes,
That's eliminating the work at Plainfield. I mean at Nelson, and utilizing that as an open channel as well. So basically, we would do Nelson Drive South culverts, and we would do Plainfield culverts and eliminate access through Nelson Drive.
yeah.
Jump out at you.
Meaning it's not easy to tell what those modifications are on those cost estimates. So if we could elaborate on that, and maybe go page by page on what those significant differences versus the presentation, would probably be beneficial to everybody in that capacity.
What do I have?
What page do you want to go to?
Back to slide 8, I guess. Yeah, there. Let's see. Nope. So, yeah, yeah.
But if we. So you kind of describe, like this one's open
Oh,
channel.
okay. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
here. And it kind of says up here, like this is the 90% GMP. This one is to culverts. This
Yeah.
one's open Nelson
Do you
Drive.
want to know the location to kind of borrow this one? Sorry. Okay, so the first one, like Joe had mentioned, at the top corner, it's basically the design at the 90% GMP, guaranteed maximum price. So this design includes an open channel at Carnes, Nelson Drive Bridge, Nelson Drive South Bridge, and a Plainfield Avenue Bridge. So that's that section. 3 bridges, that's correct. Why isn't this thing?
Yep.
So here's 17, Carnes Open Channel, Nelson South Bridge, Nelson Pier a bridge, and then Plainfield Bridge. That's one.
Is everybody,
And Kyle, if I might ask, on that first proposal, if Carnes now goes to an open channel, what you're saying is the access road in the back of the park is removed?
That's correct. Let's see. Okay, so the second one that Joe had described was colors, changing the design. Carnes, again, open channel. Nelson Drive, box culverts across here. Nelson Drive South, box culverts here, and Plainfield box culverts here. And that's the median price of 12.9. And then 3 culverts, 13. Yes. Yes.
When you put a culvert in, do you raise the elevation of the roads themselves?
Yes.
Okay, so then my question is whether it's a culvert or a bridge, and you raise the elevation of the road, what's it gonna do to the homes along Nelson with runoff off the roads? How will that be handled?
So the engineers are tasked with following the requirements from the St. John's River Water Management District and FDEP to retain that water and not impact flooding to adjacent homes. So the water that is encompassed by the area of the project is handled on site. Does that make sense? Not impacting.
No, that makes no sense to me at all when you
Okay.
say it's handled on site. How is it handled on site?
There are both underground pipes,
Okay.
and there is a stormwater pond that would be created on the north side of Bradley Park, basically next to the slope, and it's going to hold that stormwater for the design storm runoff. If that makes sense.
the amount of water? We'll
So,
channel into that. and
100-year flood event, calculate a certain amount of rain that the project is required to handle on-site in that system and those ponds.
Will not, I'm sorry, will not an elevation of the road, and I'm sorry, I've only lived in Orange Park this time for a year, so I've not attended. So I apologize if I ask any questions that everybody else knows the answers to. How does it impact the driveways of those homes on Nelson, and how would you prevent wash off the elevated Nelson into down the driveway towards their home?
Yeah, so that is a good question. So in part of their requirement for the scope of work is to design the connection that comes off the private property to the roadway so that it does flow into the right-of-way from their driveway aprons, from the right-of-way. So that's part of their design.
When it comes to the catch basin that you were talking about, does the town plan on draining it if they see an incoming storm? And the reason I ask that is because if you end up with water in that catch basin, which is always there, and then you end up with a heavy storm, where's all that water gonna go? So my question is, do you guys plan on draining it ahead of time to be able to accommodate anything that may come in later on?
So the idea, and Mary can correct me, the idea is to design it in a way where it's usually a dry detention pond. It's low enough to handle that storm event, but in normal typical rainfall days or without rain, it's designed so that there is no standing water. So there wouldn't be something where we pump it out. If there's a scenario where, it's going to rain for 4 days and 3 of those days are 100-year storm events, because those things happen. There's a misconception on what a 100-year storm event is. It's not one storm in 100 years. It's the chance of 1 in 100 events being that storm event. So it doesn't happen once every 100 years. We know it happens more than that.
I think where the kind of the confusion that is when we say a holding pond, we assume that means that there's water just sitting in it constantly, right? The holding part is when the storm hits, is ultimately, so to try to kind of, I guess, simplify it in a little bit more. So the holding is only when the event happens, otherwise it's typically dry in that capacity.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yep.
Does this include cleaning out the current sediment level that's all through this? And I have a reason for asking, so I would like to continue my thought after I get to answer if necessary.
At the project, there would be cleaning of the sediment out of Johnson Slough.
We're planning on putting the bridges.
Yes. It would be another project that we would work with the Water Management District and DEP. It would be called a dredging project. Now, luckily the state is already working on that for Doctor's Lake. So we make work at a good time where, hey, they're going to dredge Doctor's Lake, sediment out of Doctor's Lake. Can we do the slough as well?
I would like to think about sediment, okay? I used to live on Lawrence Road down in Clay County, and we have a big retention pond down there. And for the first 13, 14 years I lived there, that retention pond was fine, and then all of a sudden it started filling with all this sediment from construction projects that happened further upstream. And then what happened is the county came, they paid a really good guy to come and clean it out, and he did an excellent job. And for like 5 or 6 years, yeah, it was great. And then all of a sudden it started filling back up again because more construction projects occurred. And more silt and stuff washed in. And then the next guy they hired didn't do such a great job. Not only did his machine stuck, but they only took like 8 or 9 inches out of the retention pond. And so the next big storm we had, everybody around the retention pond flooded, and they were lucky that the pump that kept Admiral's Walk dry did not flood also, because the pump for that is right there at that corner. My concern is that if we are not keeping the silt from backing up, this is a moot point. It's just going to continue to increase in height till you no longer have it.
Right. And so, again, when I talked about bridge versus culvert, the bridges are more likely to have that sediment move back and forth and not collect at those sections where you have multiple barriers on a culvert. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. People think you put in a pond and you're done. Oh, everything's fine. You have issues. You have sediment issues. And so the cost analysis, cost benefit for bridge versus culvert, again, my point is it's
Culverts are just gonna be blocked.
more often. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. I have several questions for clarification and then a comment or two when I'm done. Kyle, correct me if I understood your statement. In the September 24 hearing, there was support for the final projects. That's true, but there's also always been opposition, even though I haven't been in the room for the last couple of years because of family problems. That opposition is well documented, number one. Number two, in the comment, when you were in the section in the opening comments about Plainfield with regards to stormwater and water treatment, did I understand you correctly? It's my understanding that those two systems are not connected at all.
Which two systems are not connected at all?
Water treatment and stormwater.
So we have a gravity sanitary sewer line that runs through the slough, Johnson Slough, the stormwater. It is broken.
But you were talking about Plainfield. You weren't.
That's on Plainfield through Johnson Slough.
That's where the break is.
Yes, yes.
I want to clarify. Thank
And
you.
so yes, Frank, you're right. Systems are separate. But when you have a break in the sanitary line, you get infiltration from the stormwater. And what ends up happening, more goes into the lift station, pumps are running more often, it goes to the wastewater treatment plant,
Making
pumps
that
are running.
point for the clarification.
Right, so our wastewater treatment plant is affected because of this.
Okay, now
My point was, it has to do with deteriorated systems that are here.
It has nothing to do with the flooding project, Kyle. That's just something you threw in.
No, it is not something I threw in, it is something that has to be addressed during this project.
It has to be addressed with or without the project, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Be a more fair, an accurate statement.
Yeah, you don't have to do the project, and then we could just fix the sanitary, yeah.
So my two follow-up questions, if I may. Thank you. With regard to the 100-year flood, prior to 2016 through 18, what's our historical average on 100-year events?
I'd have to go to the district, I'd have to go to the Corps and pull that information up.
And if we've had two in the last 50 years, that was a lot. The other thing is, in the reference of the Joan Edmonds, there's reference to bonds. What kind of bonds are those?
Performance bonds.
Bond for construction? Yeah, construction bonds.
They're not financial bonds.
They are not.
This project qualifies as a stormwater utility effort, correct?
Correct.
Why then didn't we attempt to use bonding for this to save the taxpayers' money?
We looked at the pricing on bonding, and the issuance cost would be more than the interest expense.
The bonding on this size of a project, wouldn't it be more than 3 to 8%?
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
I think y'all looked at just a regular bond. is
Right.
what y'all did.
Big difference. And the reason I say this, and maybe three of you were in the room when we prematurely paid off the water treatment bond. We could have leveraged that bond and saved the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars just in the bonding process, let alone, we wouldn't be dealing with the loan at all. At all.
Well, that was then, this is now. Let's move forward.
Oh, that's water
Kyle,
under the
I
bridge,
have a
right?
question.
Okay, hold on.
Hold on.
Yes, I know. So first of all, the last time I remember one of these meetings, I recall hearing that this would not help any homes from flooding. This is all about the waterway, right? This isn't gonna help homes.
So when we do a public works project, we are not collecting stormwater from the existing homes, if that's the question.
Irma hit, there were a bunch of houses flooded in the area. And from what I understood from the last couple of meetings, it was said, no, it's not going to help the homes.
They said it would help move the water out quicker, is
Okay,
what they
so in
said.
2018, we had the stormwater collection and waterway assessment report, and actually, there's really nothing in this that we're talking about in this for storms and everything. This was the first one from Jones Edmonds.
Okay.
And basically, you're pumping traffic through, and these are all residential homes. We always hear about speeding through Plainfield. We always hear people hauling booty through Dogwood or all those areas. Those are residential homes that you're just pushing traffic through that we're gonna pay for. So when you applied for this grant for the $7 million, what was the grant for? Like, what was the application? Mike Helter was doing it and Chuck Pavlos. They had a big meeting here. They had all these boards and everything with pictures. Everybody sign your easement. You're not going to get flooded and all this. And then everything switched to this. So what was the $7 million? What did you apply for? Because we all thought it was for homes, helping the homes. And I really don't see any area over there where you can build more homes, so there really shouldn't be much more flooding. You've added 3 homes right there, and that's why there's all the flooding in that one little area. And the first thing on here was Winfred to fix, high maintenance. And then you paid Jones Edmond $1.3 million out of the ARPA fund. You could have fixed that sewer problem with that money. That was for infrastructure. And then I see there's 30% design that we paid for this so far. So do we owe them more than the $1.3 million that we already gave them out of the ARPA money?
Which question should I answer?
All of them.
Okay. If you don't like the project, I don't know if I could have you like the project.
Yeah, sell me.
That's not my job.
It's our money.
What? It's not my job.
Well, then what are you doing?
If you want me to answer where we got the resiliency money, you're mixing up a lot of different projects. The resilient grant was the $7 million grant.
Match for this project.
The $7 million grant was an application with Jones Edmonds to FDEP for a resiliency program for the 4 culverts, the 4 roadways that are at Johnson Slough. That's what the grant was for. That's what we're using the money for. That's where the match goes.
Where's that application on the website?
You want to see the application? We could give you the application.
Put it on the website.
I'm not in charge of the website.
Okay, I asked other questions.
What were they?
Is this gonna help any homes?
Like Melissa said, it allows for more water to flow from tidal influences. So instead of backing up to people's yards, the culvert or bridge allows more tidal waterway to move back and forth.
How if they're still all plugged up with the silt? None of those have been dredged. You can drive down there right now and you can just get stuck in muck. So you're just raising things. You're not cleaning out the silt, so it'll still flood.
Okay, like I said, at those connections, those would be cleaned out.
Questions related to this popped up in my mind. has to do with the law of gravity. Dudley Branch, Johnson Slough, Black Creek, Julington Creek, all those tributaries flow into the St. Johns River. So when the St. Johns River is 3 or 4 or 5 feet above when the storm comes, how are they gonna drain? They have no place to drain. They're gonna either back up. And it doesn't matter if you got a 20-foot culvert or a bridge or a 40-foot bridge, it's not gonna flood until the river recedes. Any hydrologist knows that, I would hope. So kind of explain to me where that water's gonna go when the river is at peak height.
I don't understand like what his point is. The idea is to, when the water rises, it's gonna rise, it's gonna go where it's gonna go. This whole project is gonna help take that water back out.
Not if the river's high. Not until the
I
river goes
understand,
lower.
exactly, yeah. When the water is that high, it's gonna stay that high. But when it starts going down, this water's gonna move so much quicker because they're opening up all these waterways.
And it's gonna come in quicker.
It's gonna come in regardless, whether
gonna
it
come
comes
in
in
quicker.
30 minutes quicker or slower, like, it's no difference. It's gonna make it to where it's gonna make it.
Volume is volume.
So then why spend all the money?
This is all for water going back out. It's gonna go, that's my backyard, and I can tell you that it doesn't go very quick. It is what it is. With this project, it should go a lot quicker. So all the houses upstream would benefit, you know?
So, again, if the road and bridge is at this height and the water comes up from the river or from the lake this high, if we put the bridge here, then the water can move back and forth freely. If the bridge is higher and the water can pass through it, the bridge is higher. Okay, it won't flow.
I think they're confusing two different things. Like, it's not gonna flow when the river is 8 feet.
That's my point.
It's gonna be 8 feet everywhere.
Correct. My point.
When the water starts going down in the river, all this water will come out.
It allows the vacation of the water.
What he's saying is the water's not gonna drain because the river is at 8. That's correct. It's not gonna drain.
Right.
When the river starts going down, all this water will evacuate much quicker with that project.
That was all my point. That was my
And the roadways will be above that elevation. So emergency vehicles can get through. You can get back and forth to your homes.
So that would be a benefit. The roads, instead of staying
Correct.
flooded for 3 to 4 days, it would be that one day until it starts going down.
Go ahead.
Worst case.
Melissa, go ahead.
Kyle, I tried to ask this while we were still on this topic, but I'm gonna ask it now before I forget. The pipe that has collapsed, is that a sewer pipe?
It is, yes.
Sanitary.
Do we know how old those pipes are and
The plan I have for the roadway is 71, and it was installed down there, so
55.
so that means
geez, 50 years.
anything under Plainfield, not even just in that section, we're looking at
50-year-old pipes.
50 years, yes, yes.
Correct.
Thank you. Looking at these estimates that have been provided, I have a concern with it, in that the bridge estimate is stated at 30% design cost, whereas the other two are stated at 90% design cost. That's a huge gap. And so we're not comparing apples to apples here. We're looking at what is a 90% design? We should be looking, in my opinion, we should be looking at 90% bridge cost compared to a 90% culvert cost compared to a 90% open channel, whatever that third one is. So, because a lot can happen in the next 60% of the time.
So
Let me finish. So, I have a concern that we're not looking at really apples to apples here. this point how much more property we would have to acquire for these designs, whether it's a bridge or a culvert? And also, I know MOT, maintenance of traffic can be very costly as well. And it says maintenance of traffic provided, so that's in these costs, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then one of the last things I want to get to is what wheel loading are we designing to, since this is mainly residential? Is this a HS20 type wheel load, or are we just going to say, no, it's restricted because it is residential, and therefore with a lower wheel loading, there's a lower design requirement for to handle traffic?
I mean, so the first one, Pete, is it is a 30% preliminary design from Jones Edmonds, but this correlates to the 90% GMP or 90% plan. So it is 90%. This is what we got from Superior. So those costs are at the 90% design.
I would definitely state that this is a 90% design cost, not a 30%.
Yeah, it's misleading because it's in the upper right hand corner. But you're right.
And if you do have to acquire more easement and it's not a willing seller, and we end up in condemnation, potentially, potentially would you have to acquire more easement to get the redesign?
I don't think that we would. That's an estimate for a scenario that we might, especially if we have to do redesign. If we go back out,
The project's within the current right-of-way.
yes, we can. If we go back out for a redesign with culverts, there may be additional requirements for stormwater capacity because the rules changed in December. So we may have to design to more capacity on site than we would need additional easements.
Easement costs to me are you're going out and acquiring property, but that's not how you're defining
That
easement costs here.
that would possibly be the case if we had to go out for a redesign for the culverts. As the project is now designed at the 90%, it can be designed in the existing right-of-way.
So this 30% design for the bridge is actually 90% design, can I read that way?
So the 90% design is what the town has paid for the bridge design. So the bridge design has been taken at 90%. That's been the direction all along. So the engineers have designed it up to 90%. When we were asked to go back and look at what if these were all box culverts instead, nobody has taken that design to 90% because that would be a whole different type of design. We didn't have parallel designs going to 90%. So that's the 30% you're seeing. That's hey, step back. Could there be, a value engineering judgment where that is, a better situation? So that's why says 30% versus 90%.
All that did was confuse me more.
Okay. The bridge design is 90%.
All I'm saying is if you're going to tell me this is 30%, I'm saying that's 30%. If you're going to tell me this is 90%, that's 90%. Not anything other than.
Okay, you want to try?
Yeah.
This point in the job, which is a 30% design versus 90%.
So let me clarify what the titles say next to the submittal on each one of these. It says 30% preliminary design and 90% GMP. So Jones Edmonds did a 30% design that Superior has taken to 90%. So that's what that submittal is saying. They took our plans to 90%. The next one says 90% GMP. If we change it from 90% to culverts, that's what this price would be for. And then the last one is if we have the 90% GMP to open Nelson and the culverts. So that's what that means. It's basically saying what they started with and what it would be changed to. So that first one is the current plan. And that's, notice how there's no design fee on that one, because that's what is current, that's where the plans are currently right now. So there'd be no redesign fee with the first one.
Clarify GMP, the acronym is for what now?
Guaranteed maximum price.
Thank you.
Guaranteed maximum.
Price. Pete, you had another question. It was the easements, the cost, and you didn't? Okay.
My concern, down the road condemnation is not.
Oh.
So that's my concern, what it costs the town to be up and why more property, because we're outside of the current footprint of the right of way of those roads.
Yeah, if that happens, it would be a very difficult process to move through. Oh, the weight limit. So we designed for the heaviest is a loaded fire truck. So that's what we would design to. Is that the H20? What's a H20, right? So that's the heaviest. Yeah. Yeah.
So Kyle, I'm seeing a low, and then I'm seeing a high on your estimates here. And I'm assuming by what you're explaining that even the easement dredging and stuff would be at the highest, correct? Or would that be extra? That's my first question. Okay, I have a couple of other questions too. And what financial considerations are you guys, do you guys have, and are you planning for any and all change orders in that high estimate as well? And the reason I ask these questions is because it's very concerning to maybe see the prices change a little bit since we approved this several years ago. And I know that people are concerned about borrowing more and more funding to be able to do that. And my third question is, the loan that you're talking about is for the full amount. What happened to the money that we had in the coffers at the time? Because at the time when we approved this, we said, you know, we have half of the amount available. So I know that when I was up there, I said, okay, since we're only going to potentially be borrowing half, you know, I can be okay with this. So now I'm, you know, what I'm seeing is that we're going to probably borrow the whole 14.7 instead of the 7.7, for example. So that's my concern.
Yeah, so many.
Because that's a heck of a lot more for the taxpayer in the long run.
So let me answer a couple of your early questions. Number one, this is an engineer's probable cost. This is our estimate of what it is. We are not contractors. We cannot guarantee any prices. Construction costs change. And I will also say that right now is the cheapest you guys will ever be able to do this project. Construction costs are going to continue to rise. So if you were to put this off, it would cost more in the long run.
Yeah, and so with the process, if I understand it as much as I can, we would have to fund the whole project, so borrow the entire amount and then pay back the 50% reimbursement. We would get 50% back. We'd get 7 million back. So we're talking about monies that were already allocated? Is that, so we did have monies that were budgeted in the 5-year plan for the different projects upstream. Winfred and San Robar and HMGP grant money. That money is in general fund. I'll let John explain more if I'm wrong. But I understand that money is there. That's where the alternate funding plan is for utilizing those funds that were there. John can give you the exact amount of what's in reserves. So again, I'm sure there was another question. Oh, yeah. So we would go. The council would give authorization for the loan, then we'd have the money. But the council would also have to give authorization to the town manager to negotiate the guaranteed maximum price at the 100% design with Superior, that this is what we're getting, this is what we're paying, that's it. So all that still has to go through the council and then the town manager, if that makes sense. Did that address it?
Yes, that all makes sense to me. I'm just concerned over the 14.7 versus the 7.7 that we possibly would be taking out at this time if we were to go forward. Because I understand, like, everybody understands here that the town usually pays out for everything initially, and then we get reimbursed through the grant. So when you look at it, even if it was done 3 years ago and the money was still in the coffers,
Yeah.
then we would really only have been paying out 7.7.
Right. And so, you're right. So that was just one alternate, and if it would be up to the council how they wanted to use those reserves.
Yeah.
If they wanted to borrow 7 million and there was reserves of 7 million, then we just need to give verification and clarity to the grant, to DEP that we have the money. And we need to be able to pay the contractor for the project. So again, however the funding allocation and repayment happens, the council has a lot of options.
So to answer your question on what's in reserves, it's just over 8.1 million right now in reserves. We have that money is still there. And so, yeah. Well, and I can expand on some of the alternative options that we have, rather than doing what the initial thought process was, which was take the 14.7 out, do the project, get reimbursed, put the 7 million in, and then pay that down over the course of a 20-year loan. Through the course of this project, and since I've been here, I've kind of challenged both Public Works and Finance, and just in general to rethink this project and how we can do it. One of our great situations here is that we are financially sound because we don't take on long-term debt, traditionally speaking. So an option that we looked at is we have a reserve policy within the city that is between 33% and 67%, that we are required to keep within that threshold. So an option that we can consider, and this is ultimately obviously up to the council's decision on that, with, and speaking with John, estimated that those reserves will go up to about 8.6 million after the audit confirmation that finishes up here. Assuming that those numbers are correct, we could pull from reserves to the tune, to keep within that 33% to 67% threshold. We could pull about 4 to 4.5 million. Possibly 5, depending on where those reserves fall, that we could pay in cash without depleting our reserves completely. So therefore, reducing the amount that we would actually be into a long-term loan, which is one of the slides that Kyle had showed that gave that $2 million loan is what you would be ultimately out. So depending on, if we reduce the scale of the project with some of these that you see here, we could reduce our liability over the long term from a $7 million loan potentially down to a 2, depending, and if the council decided to move forward with the lower end project, you would almost have no loan. So there are some other options that I think we've, and again, I've challenged both Public Works and Finance and us to think outside the box and how we can do this. And I think we've done that, and I know that this is a contentious situation. I know that there's concern, but we are, we want to look out for the best situation financial with everything that's, kind of up in the air right now. And this kind of gives us the best of both worlds potentially. Not saying that's the only situation, but again, not depleting the reserves by, because we're still going to be within our own policy threshold. And at some point, if you have the reserves there for those and you want to have those 33 to 67%, you'll rebuild those, of course, over time. But this would be a project, in my opinion, that would be a qualifying usage of some of those reserves, which is why, again, we've kind of rerun some of those numbers. If that gives you kind of a quick overview of how we've gotten some of this stuff.
And you wouldn't want, Susanna, you wouldn't want to utilize all the reserves. I mean, we could have other storms, yeah. And we would have things to address.
But I do remember us having that money available plus additional, right, at the time. And I was asking about change orders. That was another one of my questions.
Yeah, so when we get to, because it's a design bid build project, and we get to the guaranteed maximum price that's negotiated, that's it. They're responsible for building what was discussed and what was authorized and what was planned, and there are no change orders. No.
George, actually, Chuck, I'll get you after George. George, go ahead.
If I may, I had a few slides. Could you put those up, please? First, let me say this. I'm very happy that I paid my mortgage off, but it took a lot of years. What the town of Orange Park is asking us to do is to take out a mortgage for a project, and do we really need the project enough to mortgage every one of us in here that are homeowners or businesses? The first, I looked at this thing, and the amounts of money was unbelievable. And this slide, if you would go to this one, this is the water flow on Dudley Branch as it comes down. Now, I talked to Johnny Bowles, and most of you folks know John. He was a city manager here for 20 years, and I believe he was public works director for 5 prior to that. Bowles told me the problem north of Kingsley is those culverts are not cleaned out, and they're below ground. And they need to be cleaned out, and they haven't done it. So no matter what you do south of Kingsley, it's going to have no bearing on those people north of Kingsley. Has the engineer talked to Mr. Bowles? Those who do not know history repeat history. That's unbelievable. The second slide, if you would, is there's the floodplain. Pass on by 3 if you would, and go to 4. That's what we were promised a few months ago, so the kayaks could get through. Okay, that was just. Of course, there's no water there now. There won't be 97% of the time, but that was an official photo that was presented before the city council. Then the next one is, this is the prices that we saw that was also presented at that meeting. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of these.
I have a question real quick.
You're not, I've got the floor.
Okay.
Okay, option 1, if you wanted if you would go on to the next 5, please. If you really want to save money and do the project right, you take all 3 of those structures out, and you enhance the flow of the water up, and you enhance the water to flow back. You build a road through where it's 275 feet approximately, which is most of it out of the floodplain. And you could easily put a traffic circle on Plainfield and slow your traffic down. Plainfield Avenue is extra wide and it gets a lot of traffic. Unfortunately, when it gets clogged up, the Carnes Street, Nelson Drive, we get all the speeders there. On a much smaller road, more congested. And the police department can tell you about the speeders going down that road. Okay, if you go to the next one, please. This is another option. Go to number 6. Oh, this is it, okay. Another option would be just eliminate the bridge going over Dudley Branch at Nelson and Carnes Street. Those are not needed. We have other roads that are dead-end roads in Orange Park, but if you take that out, regardless, you'd save a lot of money. Not only that, you'd be restoring the environment and the park to its natural inhabitants that it was before John Nelson started building and developing those lots. That's just a thought. That's an option. And the last one, of course, would be to eliminate Carnes Street, but I think you've already got that point that has been made. So that's my concern as I looked at it. Well, number 1, this is not a $14 or $16 million project. It's another $1.5 million that's already paid to Jones Edmonds or whoever you are over there for the design work that you've done. And I have real concerns as a senior citizen, y'all coming in here and putting another mortgage on my property, unless it's needed. Right now, in my estimation, about 3% of the people who use those roads through there live on Fleming Island or Green Cove. Very few people in the town of Orange Park ever use those roads. So don't tell us how bad they are as far as traffic or whatever. because we live them and we see them every single day. And I've been on that road for over 40 years, close to 50. And it's not what we want. We don't need the excess cost. If you're going to do anything, you do it the best you can, the cheapest you can, in effect for protection of the citizens. That's what I rest my case.
Eugene, you had your hand up.
There's just so many numbers just floating around here, and it has been for the last 6-8 months. I haven't seen a number yet that's definitive. How much have we already spent? I'm hearing $1 million, $1.2 million, $2 million. You're wanting to spend $14.7 million for the whole enchilada? Are you including interest in that we're gonna be paying for the loan? Are you gonna include a change order? You're saying there are not gonna be any change orders, I understand what he just said, but guarantee you, as a contractor, they padded that for change order. So we're paying for change order. We will be paying for change order. If they don't need the change order, it's just money in their pocket. What's the big number? Please. Everything, from design to the end of the project, when it's all paid off, how much are we gonna be mortgaged for? And how much of our taxes are gonna go up? That's what's important, I think, to a lot of people that I talk to. Because there's so much talk out there, nobody knows what's going on. We haven't heard definitives here, just a lot of numbers and a lot of this, a lot of that. If we do this, if we do that. It's my mother. Please, give us something to take home that we can tell people that aren't here how much this thing's gonna cost us for the next 20 years. I'm not gonna be here, but my kids might. Plus interest and all that stuff. Can we get a number?
I use that road, by the way.
What part of the 3%?
We're not gonna get a number, we're being silent.
No, again, so,
Or we don't know.
well, we haven't selected if, what we had, again, when I had gotten here, we met with them and I asked for some revised plans, which is what we have here at the 90% estimates. And so on the pamphlets, what you see here, right, you see the low side, the high side, those are gonna give you that aspect. Obviously, until we commit to whatever the project is, we have to pick the project total, the scope that we're going to do. That will give us the exact number, obviously, that we can, from there, we decide, are we going to utilize reserves? Are we going to utilize the full loan, those capacities? And I think that's ultimately going to depend, with what council decides to do. But if, say we go with the low end and everything goes as smooth and perfectly as possible, and it's the low side of 9.3, okay, if we spend 9.3, you get half of that back through the state, and if we have 4.5 in reserves you want to use, then there is no loan. Best case scenario, right? And again, until we pick that project and the scope that we want to go with and what we feel is the best option for the long-term resiliency of this entirety of project, therefore, we won't know until that decision is made. And that's kind of what this is, providing council with those three, some additional options there, as well as being able to ask the engineering company questions from that standpoint. So until we determine the exact scope that we want to move forward with, we won't have that exact number. We have a range, obviously, that they've provided with these differing options that we can look at. But until we pick, we won't have that exact number. Once we do, we will have the exact number, and we will have that design build number that do not exceed number. But again, we have to make that choice and then go from there if that's what we decide to move forward with. That was not actually added. That had come up in it, and, oh, go ahead.
Whether we borrowed or we take it out of the fund. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Are the houses still gonna flood?
A lot of spirited conversation, and I welcome it. This is my 5th workshop going on now, 6 years. And I just want to thank you, Randy, and Joe, and Kyle, and the council for continuing to keep the conversation afoot and helping us understand what the project's about, because there's a lot of, competing views, and, it takes courage for you guys to come out here and sort of weather this beat down. So thank you. I do have three kind of big questions. First one, this is the first time I've heard about a containment structure. Where's that going? What's that look like to build? Are we cutting down trees? Are we dredging? Where's that going? Because you said the north side, those are backyards over there in the park. The second one is around RFP. The RFP forever has had a navigable waterway in there, and from the visioning project in Greenway way back in the day, part of the requirement to get some of the funding was to have that component. If we take it out, are we at risk of losing any of that money from the grants? The grants are coming due, in June or July this year, 3 months away, if I understand it. Are we doing anything to get an extension if construction's not done? And then the last sort of third big question, where are we with the permits? They've been looked at a long time. What are the issues? Why are they not getting approved? What if the different agencies push back on us that we aren't able to answer? And are those permitting costs also baked into this GMP?
Can I answer, Chuck? So the first one, the stormwater detention pond, that's on the north side of Bradley. They feel that they can fit it into that area that's just adjacent to the slough. It'll be a low area, again, designed to be dry, but not. Do you have a picture of Bradley Park? I don't. It would be in Bradley Park if you could pull that up, Courtney. Yeah. No, north of, between, just west of the parking lot. Yep.
Where the banana trees were.
Yes. Yeah.
And what kind of work does that entail? I mean, are we excavating land, are we dredging the smooth and making it a pond?
No, again, the only sediment that would be removed is at the actual construction site. It wouldn't include anything else on Johnson Slough. It would be clearing the property. It would not be taking, it's trying to avoid as many of the trees as possible. So
Basically, one side would be bermed up so that
This
the
area.
water could be held back.
So right here, that's a lower area. And it would be bermed, stage up, and then overflow into Johnson Slough. The permitting? RFP was.
The RFP at one point, and I don't know, maybe we rewrote it, it was to create some navigable waterways.
Oh. So, again, I will go back to, it's the resiliency grant, so it doesn't have to do with recreation, like the fact of having the flood elevation at 4 and having that freeboard of 3 feet in that flood event puts that elevation for resiliency at 7, bottom of the bridge, 9 at the top of the bridge. The grant is about resiliency for flooding, for tidal influences, and for roadways. It's really not for anything else. A kayak area where there is no flood, yeah, it's an ancillary benefit. But as far as this grant is concerned, and the way it was designed, that's not the purpose. The purpose is for resiliency.
Well, it's different from what conversations in the past, but it's okay.
Go- And then was your last one about the grant deadline?
Yeah, the permit, so the.
Okay.
Sorry. So the permit was submitted. It's with St. John's River Water Management District. Because it's a 90% design, they had requests for additional information. But we are basically directed to stop work at this point until the council decides on a project. So the district knows that, DEP knows that. So right now, we would have to, if the project moves forward from the council, we've already talked to the Water Management District, we would have to get an extension so that we could address any concerns based on the design if we move forward with the design, or we pull that permit back if the council wants a complete redesign, and then we redesign and submit another permit.
And just add to that, just on the permitting.
Well, I was just curious, because there was another engineering crew out here maybe 3 months ago, and I'd heard that, there was a challenge with all the organics there, and the potential that it would add to cost to it, and I'm just curious, what those issues were with permitting, it's taken so long, because we've submitted, I think, almost 3 years.
So no, the permit was submitted in December of '25. So there weren't, as far as I know, there weren't issues on the sediment from the Water Management District on permitting. It was mostly for construction of the bridge. Basically, the foundation has to sit on compressible soils, organic soils. But again, there's debate on how much is it going to compress. It's been there for 50, 60 years, And so there's engineering analysis and opinion on how much more foundation support needs to go into that. But it really wasn't a permitting issue. The permitting issue is, are we going to, move forward with this design, or are we going to add impervious areas so that we have to design a bigger stormwater pond? Those were the issues from the district. This lady's been, sorry.
Does the town actually own all of the property that Johnson Street flows through along the easement? No, so that's all private property, am I correct? Okay, so I just want to clarify. This project is to make sure that those of us that have to pass across these areas in the event of a storm to evacuate can actually get out. That's what we're doing. We're raising our bridges so that people can get out. We're not here to prevent your property from flooding. That's what flood insurance is for. Sorry.
But there's other ways to get out, and you're supposed to evacuate before the storm.
But everybody doesn't. And just like everybody else with the right to have access, that we get flooding without having a major storm now. And we need to do something about it. Yes, dredging sediment from out of the waterway would help deter that, but we're going to get sediment again within 10 years. It's going to flow right back in. But raising the bridges would ensure that those roadways stay clear even with minor flooding now. Because if we get really big storms, then they're not hurricanes, and stuff floods. Because the bridges were built a long time ago and they need to be raised. That's the purpose of this project.
But, I forgot my question. It's been so long.
From what I've been hearing, we're sitting here discussing this again and again and again. It seems to me that the way to go forward for the long term is a 100-year floodplain request for the 3 bridges. Let's move on with that. Let's approve it, because if we sit here and wait, tomorrow it's going to cost more. It's going to cost more the next day after that. And we're not going to be anywhere forward. So let's go on with this. Let's let the council agree to this, because maintenance-wise, long-term, resiliency-wise, the 3 bridges is the way to go.
All right, thank you. He has a good point, took my thunder, but what I'm thinking is, my personal opinion is Carnes needs to go. Nelson South is probably gonna go on its own in the next hurricane. It's in bad shape, it needs something there, so I'm in favor of a bridge there. Nelson Drive, I'm also in favor of a bridge there. And then Plainfield, open channel. So that's a huge chunk of change for Plainfield. That's gonna kill all the traffic problems we have for Plainfield and Nelson. And I don't think it changes anything for fire department getting in there. They're gonna take Plainfield in anyways. I'd love to see that as an option to open channel Plainfield, bridge Nelson South, and open channel Carnes.
Okay, question. When you say open channel, what are you referencing?
Remove what's there.
Remove the bridge. The bridge.
Okay.
They don't have a
Which
light.
is on 17.
So
And we could not get that light changed.
there's, okay, so you're saying one way, but there's two.
But, yeah, but they both land onto 17 where, what is
Where's-
Elbow right there?
Yes.
When you go out Elbow, you have to turn right.
So you're saying put a light there and it solves that problem?
No. The light at the bridge. We looked at turning that into a
Okay.
working light. But FDOT, they own it. They said no.
So if we propose that we're taking out Plainfield, they can't revisit that, or do they just say right now no, but if that's the only way in the future, then yes?
I don't have that answer, but I will tell you, FDOT's not the easiest to work with.
And so you got to remember too, they're focused on moving traffic. And so for us to say, can you put a stoplight in there for 40 homes? They'll do an analysis, but like the mayor said, that would be very difficult. That'd be a challenge. They are focused with roads and moving traffic.
Is that I don't know how many people agree with a lot of people, then maybe it's not worth their time, but I think that want to consider that, because that's the highest
Price item on that. I'd love to get a confirmed answer from FDOT if they would consider that if we remove that section of Plainfield and then, propose it to them in that manner.
Isn't that set on blink all the time? So in the event of a storm, FDOT could convert it to where every 5 minutes or so, it stops on contact and lets those 40 homeowners out.
I tried to get a light there 2 years ago. That would be a signal. They refused it.
On FDOT, they move from the legislature. There's political movement can do it. Having been a commissioner, I know how to get lights done when I was an elected official. Harbor Island, I think it is across the bridge, that was put in because a woman was killed. And she happened to be an employee of the Times Union when that one happened. And I don't think they have 40 houses in there or whatever. But the other thing about the Water Management District, I've made a lot of calls to them. I've talked to their permitting department. They said they had 14 meetings with the contractor or the contractor's representative, and it's always been no. I didn't ask why, but they've even hired a high-price somebody from Jacksonville to go in and take this project to get it done. They had 14 meetings, and they said they were tired of meeting with them for what was brought to them.
I'm sort of brand new here, but I'm on the Slough, but on the east side of 17. And what is the waterway that is affecting this area? Is it Doctor's Lake, or is it both directions? It's both directions? Because I understand when you guys are saying raise the bridges, we have a beautiful culvert or bridge, whatever, on 17 there, but when and this isn't the idea of to mitigate flooding, but to open the waterway, to let the water travel, but it has nowhere to travel. So you could put in 10 bridges, but if the water has nowhere to go on the other side, and it's just logs and trees and dammed up, there's a problem.
I just want to add something to that. That's all private land through there.
Okay.
That's why we can't clear it out.
Okay.
But at our last meeting, the residents who live on that came to us and said they're willing to sign easements to let us in there to clean. So that is an option, but we haven't gone forward with it because we're waiting to see.
Well, it needs to be done anyway.
Correct.
So, and I thought when we bought that muck truck, it sunk.
So again, we want to coordinate with DEP and the legislation because they are planning a dredge for Doctor's Lake, and that would be great if we could sort of piggyback that.
It sounds great. I mean, to allow the volume to go through, absolutely great. But if you're just going to dredge or clear out the area around it,
It's a whole other permit. It's a whole other permitting process. But again, because of the concerns and because of the studies that we've had, I think they would be very favorable to something like that.
So would this kind of be like a first step, do the bridges, and then
Yes.
entertain the dredging?
Yes, absolutely.
Taken any of that into consideration. We've gotten to the railroad track and we've come to a dead end, seem like.
That's a different creek.
Yeah, show me.
That's a different
That's
creek.
a different creek.
Okay.
But
It doesn't
that's
go
a
to-
very good question though.
Yeah.
So some is Miller's here.
Goes behind Birdwood.
There is some that comes down and ends up because even from that pond up there in the EMT areas, there's a section that comes into Shaw Pond and then goes to Doug. Correct. So, again, this is where we start, step one. This is where you start, so that you move upstream, this is the downstream.
Kyle, while you were up there, and then I'll let you speak.
Okay.
Can you kind of give the big picture?
Yeah.
This is the first step. So everybody can kind of see where the whole project is. I hate to put you on the spot, but.
Okay, so that's the main channel, or, yeah, can you go up to the other slide?
Oh, yeah,
It's the same, but I guess it shows stormwater.
the one after this?
No, before.
And I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so-
try to load it.
So, again, Jones Edmonds helped us with, modeling the entire town
I have it right
through
here.
25-year, 50-year flood year, 100-year, 500-year, and different hydrology conditions. So, this is the main trunk down Dudley Branch where a lot of the water comes from this area on 17 and even up in this area comes through Shaw Pond and into Dudley Branch and drains. So it's the major connection. Again, this is the downstream where we want to work on first instead of working upstream. But you know, the next, other than the four sections, so we can have those resilient projects for tidal and rainfall. After that, Milwaukee is good. Milwaukee's at an elevation that's very good. Those culverts are moving. Kingsley has sediment in it, but, you know, our idea is to work with DOT, but you can see their elevation, their elevation is good on Kingsley. We want them to clear out some sediment down there so that you have more flow. But it's all elevations as well. There's an elevation at Shaw Pond here. There's an elevation staged at Morgan, San Robar. Those culvert head walls are failing, they're falling in, so that's another project. And then we have Winfred culvert down here that is designed too small, and that's another.
And that's another project that we have. So after dredging here, go upstream, work with DOT on maintenance, work with Winfred, work with projects on Morgan, San Robar, Shaw Pond for additional capacity and dredging. And then I will probably retire.
Projects, though, part of that 5 million that we have in reserve.
What's that?
I said San Robar and that, aren't those all the 5 million that we're holding in reserve? Or for future projects? Yes.
Yeah.
And in essence, sure.
Pay off the loan, we're still gonna have to fund those projects.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good
that was my
question.
second question. What happens if the state does away with our property?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kyle, could you tell us what water dumps into Shaw Pond?
Yeah. Let's see. It's not supposed to. 295 is not supposed to. But yeah, I've seen it. I've seen where it comes from wells here and comes down from Loring. So you're talking about this area here does come down. DOT had a project here that also feeds into this pond and comes in across the railroad tracks to Shaw. So both this section here and this section here come into Shaw Pond and Dudley Branch. So there's sort of a natural break here that's supposed to go up into McKiss. That's not right. What's that creek? McGurts. McGurts Creek, but it's mostly county area. This section here on the east side of 17 goes east to the river. And then there's a section back in here, where am I? Where's the school? Right where the middle school is, just east, that ends up going northwest toward the county ditch and then back up into McGurts. So there's kind of a break. What is it? The Laurel Grove, those subdivisions that are on Grove Park? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's kind of a break at Grove Park Drive. Yeah.
Okay, Kyle, you also mentioned 2 culverts are undersized and need to be replaced. Which one is scheduled for this year, correct?
What was that? One more time?
A
Is there
culvert?
something scheduled this year?
I want to say one was scheduled this year and one's tentative scheduled for next year in the CIP.
So we had Winfred, we had San Robar, and we had Morgan, but they weren't the culverts, they were the head walls for Morgan and San Robar. The culverts are actually holding up. We'll reline those in a project, but those are actually doing well. There's no seals left, but we'll reline those. The head wall there's one head wall on both Morgan and San Robar that needs to get rebuilt.
Okay, is one of them scheduled for this coming year?
I don't think so. Do I have anything scheduled? I mean, we had something for Winfred culvert.
Winfred, we're waiting on.
That was through the HMG hazardous mitigation program. It was through FEMA and the Florida Department of Emergency Management. FEMA is not going to come through with money. I don't know. They might. They keep saying they will, but they haven't, and it's been 10 years. So, I can't count on that money. But there was some funds that were identified for the budget for that culvert.
So thank you for that explanation, Kyle. And that brings me back to, I forget who mentioned it, but with that north side needing to be cleaned out as well, to be able to have the flow come through appropriately, because I know we've had a problem with Laurel Road cleaning out their ditch, and because it is private property. So how do we get them to maybe sign their easement over to the town to allow us to clean it out? I don't know, or allow us to go in there just to clean out whenever we need.
Yeah, let me say, it's tough because it is private property, and they were permitted through their development to maintain that pond. So even through the district, they are responsible for it. It's hard because if, again, people think about, oh, I'm going to build a pond and I'm good, and they go away and they don't do the maintenance. And so that does affect the adjacent neighborhood.
And to answer your question regarding, you know, the raised bridges and stuff, yes, that was for safety for the taxpayers to actually go across that and for, you know, emergency services and everything to be able to get out of town. And that's one of the reasons that decision was made. Also, I have a question regarding the grant itself, because if we change those specs that were initially put on there for the grant to be, because we received a grant based on the specs that we put on the application, right? If we change it to culvert versus bridges or open channel, how's that going to affect the grant?
So we would have to discuss that with them. I mean, we discussed the extension. They gave us the extension till, I think it's 28, March of 28. So we have time. Again, their grant money is for resiliency, and that's the most, it would qualify. The culvert would, but we'd have to go back to them and justify why that is a resilient project. So there's more work.
Because we got a great grant with that,
Mhm.
and my concern is, if now we go and change those specs, are they gonna decrease the grant amount to us based on any changes? And that can happen.
Yes,
And
they have a lot of applications that did not get funded, so yes, it could. It could.
Correct.
Just last comment, I just don't understand why we can't do something moving forward. Instead of going out and buying, borrowing millions of dollars, I think that can be fixed. The problems can be fixed without spending millions and millions of dollars. And when I look at that fancy bridge here with the cut stone on the side of it, the wrought iron fence, and a nice little sailboat running through there, that's beyond our means. I mean, you can fix that project without going to the extreme. But I think that these engineers, and no disrespect to all, but you got like carte blanche that, oh, let's build this monument. Let's do something we can afford. Maybe we don't have to borrow money. Think about it that way. We've lived above our means for too long. We're giving money back, but we keep spending money we shouldn't be spending. And this is a perfect example. We don't need to spend all of that to fix the problem. And everybody would be happy.
Yeah, with regard to that, opening up that at Plainfield, that's just south of Nelson at Plainfield, correct?
Yes.
What about the three homes that are on the dirt road of Plainfield? When we do all of that, how are they gonna be affected?
I don't know when we do what.
Well, if we open it up,
As a channel.
It would have access through Holly Point.
open it up, is that not going to affect those three houses that are on the dirt road? where it turns from?
No, that's further,
Holly
it's further
Point?
up. It's further north is where we would open it up.
And it's not gonna affect them flooding in any way or shape or
It
form?
changes nothing for them, no.
I know they're not here, so I thought I'd
I
speak
think,
up.
it's a great solution. One, it's a high price item. Two, like she was saying, with the water coming this way, I mean, is the most impact coming from the north? Obviously, all the water from the north, not so much from the river coming
No,
under 17, but all the water coming from the north.
The way Plainfield is right now, it's underwater, both Plainfield and Nelson. So it's affected by both rainfall and tidal. You know it's underwater. The concern is, again, DOT, I asked for that light to be changed after there was a motorcycle accident, I think 3 years ago. They did a study, they said no. Yeah, that was a death too. And I said, what do you mean? But the DOT is the DOT. Again, they're looking at moving traffic. And if you look at it from an engineer's point of view too, we record over 1,000 cars on Plainfield that use Plainfield down at that area. So 3, 4, 5, 40 people may not want Plainfield, but 1,050 people do. That's daily traffic.
Cut through. I mean, there's.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is a cut through.
We use those roads, we use those bridges all the time. George seemed to think that none of us go that way, but we do go that way.
Sandra, 1 second. I just wanted to address the light issue, and I know there's timing, logistics, but the light that allows us out of Holly Point East, the north entrance, that was denied by FDOT, the one that's right across from Elbow, that light there. I know.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just
but you
saying,
both,
As
yes.
an example, that was denied by FDOT.
Yes.
And the neighborhood basically came in, we got a lot of elderly people. We started a letter writing, my wife was one of the leaders of the movement. But they got everybody mobilized in the neighborhood. Now, you have to want it. I'm relating it to the other light. But they basically came back. The manual said no, clearly. They set up all their counters and did all their analysis, and they said no, flat out. So I'm just saying that, we wrote to our congressmen, senators, and as citizens, as voters, and said, we want a light here. And they came back and reanalyzed it, and we got the light. So it's not impossible to do. I mean, it's the question, you have to have certainty, obviously, if you're going to open that up, and I think it's an intriguing idea. And then there's also the idea of going to a time stop and go. We've mentioned several times that it's just, they said no, it's a no. Because they said no, and it was a yes later on. So, I mean, it's possible.
And they put in a flashing light.
No, I'm talking about our light, the one on the other end, Holly Point Road East, north. We got
Oh,
a
the
light.
north side, yeah.
Yeah, so we got a light.
Yeah.
And they said no to that light.
But you can get out too that way from
No, I
Holly
know,
Point
but
East.
I'm just saying, we're saying FDOT said no to the one at the bridge. Well, they said no to ours. And we just said, no, the manual is not addressing everything. So I'm just saying, it's not no. We go to our elected officials and they tell FDOT.
It's a similar amount of houses.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there because I don't know everybody knew the history of our light.
Yeah.
And the fact that they said no.
Yeah, you're welcome to call your politician and get a light. I go back every 2 years, and I'm going to go back and ask them for a light again in 2 years.
I'm just saying that when FDOT says no, it's not necessarily no. I mean, whether that's helpful or not, that's all we're saying here. It's not a.
Yeah, I got you.
Good Lord.
No, I got you.
I'm just curious, is there any energy for Georgia guys? I mean, it's going to save us $6-7 million.
Which idea?
Opening up Carnes, Nelson South, and Nelson, all three of those, and making that road on Plainfield a circleway with an entrance into the park. And it removes the Carnes Bridge, which was, I think, 2.5 at one point, the Nelson South Bridge and the Nelson Bridge. I mean, those are another $7 million, and that takes the cost cost of the whole thing down to 6 million plus, 7.
So, can you show that, Courtney? We, so we don't own any of that property, and we've,
Where he had proposed that road, what they're saying, we don't own any of that.
we
so
don't
we'd
own
have to
any of
acquire.
that property, and we've reached out to all the residents, and there's a lot of residents that respond. They don't want anything to do with us. If we did condemn and take it, that would be very expensive. It would take many, many years. And that area is, it's all muck. It's all muck. So you're talking about basically whatever that distance is going to be a 300-foot bridge because it's just all garbage.
Between Holly Point, right there, the turn of Holly Point and
Yeah, that's all muck.
well, it used to be the road actually into that property.
Yeah, we took
Boring
took soil
samples.
samples. It was just a lot. It's very expensive, and we don't own it.
Pretty affordable opportunity. That's what I was asking.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now we've beaten this around the bush for how long? I don't know what time it is, but I'd like to know what our time frame is now. What are we looking at as far as start date, making a decision? I mean, that to me seems to be the first thing that as a council you're responsible to do is to decide what direction. Has tonight helped you in any way to make a decision? Maybe not.
Not everybody at once.
I am speaking for myself,
Okay.
not the rest of the council. To me, this is such an important project. The more public input you have, the better. And I know some of you are ready to start it right now.
I don't want to have to listen to another George Bush presentation.
But you,
6 more plans.
and you know, for years, we didn't take care of infrastructure. And that's where we're at today. And we had a gentleman here, actually, was it you? 20 years ago? No. They proposed that same project either 20, 30 years ago, and it was $1 million. And they didn't want to do it, and the council had the money. It was Superior who, and
And that would have been in the 90s when those bonds existed. So
Yes.
They had a way to pay for it, and they could have paid for it, and they didn't.
but they didn't.
Now we're here.
Right.
I remember my question now, Randy.
Okay, go ahead.
When Mr. Bush showed his presentation, he showed a image of a report that came out a couple of years ago. That was the one for Carn Street, that bridge with the boat that's going through it. At the top of that, which was cut off, it says Carn Street. But that, thank you, Courtney. That one.
That's Carnes.
That says Carnes over there on the left.
It's not even gonna be in the
It's
plan.
not even there.
Oh,
It's not even in the plan.
good catch.
That's not even the bridge that the council
Good catch.
selected.
I didn't catch that.
This says Carn Street wouldn't even be in play, so that's not a good option. Even though we had the floor.
Oh, go ahead.
So I have a question on the water volume. So, that whole bigger is better sometimes, but then sometimes it's not. So thinking about the volume of water that does flow through, and the cleaning out, and the maintenance that's going to go through, do you have like a water volume calculated, an idea? I understand you guys, they're talking about the 50-year, 100-year. I mean, climate's crazy anymore. You could have the 100-year next year. You could have it the 50-year the year after, or it could never happen ever again. But what's the volume that's running through there, and can opening it up handle it? Does it need a culvert? Does it need structure to maintain the surrounding land? If you do get a surge of water through, is it going to wash it out? Do you need actually the bridge and the infrastructure to retain and hold it? Or is a culvert okay? Or is opening it up okay.
So there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of factors and calculations. So they do have a quantity for the storm event that they design the pond and the detention. And any amount of impervious area that needs to be detained on site. So they come up with those based on the storm results. I can't say that's.
Oh, no, but there's just like, you know, when you're comparing,
But
I feel
yes.
like people are comparing, you know, the pricing instead of the quality.
Yeah.
You know, like what's the benefit of going with the bridge? What's the benefit of opening it up? You know, like, are there benefits, the pros and cons? If that makes sense.
Huge benefit to opening up Plainfield.
So you want to open Plainfield? Got it.
Yes, he does.
Unanimous.
What did you want to do with Plainfield? What did you want to do with Plainfield? Okay.
Cul-de-sac.
Okay.
I heard a roundabout.
Kyle, are you done with her? Connie, you'll be next.
Could you go to slide 15? So these are the cost analysis comparison between building a bridge and a culvert versus opening up a channel. There are a number of reasons why we didn't go and investigate that. And it's traffic volume and ability to get in and out of the neighborhoods.
No, that's
So,
great then. I mean, since it's already been
yeah,
a contender, it was already looked at.
yeah.
No, okay.
Can I, maybe just one
Yeah.
clarification? Are you just specifically referring to the hydraulic capacity
Yeah.
of the system?
Yeah,
So,
so like,
I would say in simple terms, the model is pretty sophisticated. It will take river elevations at different stages, up and down, and it will take rain events up and down, and then simultaneously up and down. So yes, many, many, many different iterations are done for the capacity under different conditions. So
And that's with the culvert.
the current direction was bridges. So the bridge capacities that we've been talking about, yes, they're very comprehensive capacities.
Makes sense.
And the model includes everything. When Kyle was talking about all the drainage areas and how it all flows, all those little parts and pieces are in the model. So everything gets looked at, and it's very dynamic because it's over time. So yeah, it's a very complicated.
It's not the bridge that's being the model. It's that map he showed with all the blue.
Right.
All of that all gets done together.
okay. Is it, okay.
Yes.
You guys could have started with that.
We wanted to see who was going to stick around.
I had one other question. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, back in the old days, when we first did the modeling, it was to do the dredging, where it was needed in the crisis moment at that time. But the part two to that was to come down and do the full dredging on this border area that we're talking about. And I guess my concern is that it's my understanding that there's way more than silt in there, and it's gonna cost a lot of money to those streams and what's been done from the year prior, and let me tell you, there's stuff in there. And that's cleared out, we're not gonna know the true flow of what we have. And the money should have been in there to do that. And whatever, I don't know how that's been worked since then, but that was the next step.
Yeah, so I know there was dredging that was done in part of Dudley Branch, both on the south side and the north side. There was a section between Loring and Ash, or Shaw and Ash, that was not done at all. But that's upstream.
But there's nothing down from Carnes to Nelson on down where I could tell you
No.
that is bad off.
So, again, the idea was, in order for these calculations to happen, is have the surveyors map the areas that are existing now so that they know what the elevations are, both in the channel and in the surrounding area, and then they could design the elevation of the bridge and the width of the bridge. So, taking into account all of the surveying that it is right now. Now, we go in and dredge, that's even better. I mean, it might be even better floor.
Do that first, because we may not be building as large and wide of a bridge if the dredging is working. And that being said, I mean, I know that silt builds back up again. We gotta be prepared too, to go back into these places that we've already spent millions of dollars on to dredge, to go back in and maintain those as well.
Yeah, I think the bridges have the less maintenance for a life cycle cost than the culverts do, significantly. But if we had the money to dredge and the permit already done, we would have done it.
Why didn't we do that? That was our next step.
It sounds like there's an opportunity that's coming up, so hopefully this aligns where we're completed with construction by the time that dredging project kicks off. And then we're getting the whole package.
Yeah, I think
But the thing is that once you do the dredging, then you've got like a new drawing in a lot of ways, because you're.
But what he's saying is that it's already at its highest. So if we build off of that, then they dredge, it's gonna be way better. So if we wait till they dredge and then build off of that, it's gonna be significantly, I don't know significantly, but lower, which down the road will be a maintenance item.
So, yeah, I understand that, but the whole thing is that, there may be some areas that we don't have to have a bridge, and we could just have a large culvert, because we found out that's capacity. Oh, trust me, I live right there. So I know. And when it floods, it spreads out very, very wide. So however these bridges are gonna contain that, I'll be interested to see it.
Okay, Chuck?
Kyle, I know at one point you were pretty adamant about having access for you and your team through Carnes Road to the back of the park, and now that we're opening it up, I mean, is there a plan to sort of mitigate that, or?
No, the guys would use the one access. Ideally, it would be nice if it was an access road for maintenance and then just open for pedestrian or bicyclists. But, maybe we don't do anything with Carnes right now, and we take it out of the project altogether because of the funding. And DEP was open to that idea because they know how expensive things are. And then we revisit it with them, and maybe we come up with another design specifically for Carnes. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice, but.
What if Carnes, I'm not understanding what you just said, you mean take Carnes out of the equation?
So right now, with the 90% design plan, it's not building a bridge, but there's it's taking the culverts out that are there, doing riprap and armoring on the side, clearing out that section. But if we just don't do it at all, we would come up with another project.
It makes sense to not do anything at all, isn't that?
At Carnes,
Yeah, isn't that the bottleneck?
it'll just flood over top of it. It floods there now. It's so low that it just flows.
To not do anything there, just to me that would start downstream, work up, like we said,
Yeah,
I think in that hydrology study that was done in 17, 18, I mean, Carnes was identified as one of the pinch points.
As far as bottleneck, yes.
Yeah, for flooding.
And it might be where some of the, if we can permit it to do it in-house, maybe we can open some of that up. You know, I'm just trying to think of different options to make it economical for the other bridges to get done.
I will say, Kyle, there is, I think they call it, a grant out there for taking waterways back to the natural flow. So there is a grant
It
out
could be
there.
grant money.
Kyle, you mentioned that, I believe it was the St. John's Water Management right now is, doing something with dredging down south, is that correct, or who's doing that? So,
They are,
okay,
but there's an initiative to, the Doctor's Lake is an impaired water body.
the sandbar, that's.
It's algal blooms. Everything is an issue with Doctor's Lake. So there is an initiative to dredge and remove sediment from Doctor's Lake. And it hasn't been started yet, but I know that the district is in favor of that project. They're ready to move forward. And Joe and I have talked, we'd like to piggyback on top of that and do the slough as well to, it would, and I think it would be much more economical if we did it at the same time with the same contractor, and they're already mobilized, but.
Certain locations that you're in front of the park, there's a ton of trash. Like stumps, concrete sticking out of the water, is that something that they would consider?
No, so I have another project with the district on it's a living shoreline reef establishment on that side of Bradley Park, but we're just not there yet. But yeah, it's.
Slide that in there, like, you didn't do this area good enough.
Yeah.
So,
This is good.
how long would it take us to get permitting to be able to do, say, the Carnes area and all this? Because you were saying that it would be good to do everything together. So, like, permitting takes forever with that.
So that's why Joe and I sat with the Water Management District, and they are using some of their connections, possibly with the University of North Florida, on design, so that it comes in a little bit cheaper as well. Sorry. Sorry to the designers. But they're in that process now. So we're going to utilize what St. John's River Water Management District can do for us on a design, and if it's their design, they're going to permit it. It's theirs.
You guys for doing that, you're looking after the taxpayer.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
It takes time.
I feel like we've had a lot of these meetings. We've discussed a lot of the same stuff over and over and over. Everyone should be very well aware of what's going on. I don't think that there is a single taxpayer here that really wants to spend $14 million. But I'm in favor of the project. If the project would have been done way back when they identified it was an issue, we would not be paying the money that we're going to be spending right now. If we wait and we do nothing, who knows how much it's going to cost the taxpayers. I think we're to a point where the council has gotten good feedback and should be able to make an educated decision. I'm in favor of going through with Plainfield, Nelson South. I do not think we should do Carnes. If anything, pull the culverts out and open that at Carnes. I would be in favor of that, because if it's been identified as an issue, I don't think we should just leave it there to go over. I just don't want to wait any longer and have this project get more expensive and more expensive, and anyone who lives down there near the swamp, like I do, knows that that area is mucky or like quicksand. You can't walk in it
I've
without
tried.
sinking
I've tried.
down into it. Imagine what's happening under the road. We already know because of the fire hydrant that sunk and has been raised from the dead. But really, think of what's holding that up. The culvert that's no good. And then we've got all the sewer pipe that needs to be repaired or replaced under that. So I just want to let you know that even though I don't want to spend the money, I think we need to spend the money. So I'm in favor of the project, and that's where I'm at because it's getting late.
Okay.
Is this price good for 90 days from this date?
30. No,
Typically,
no.
it's a 90 day, that's why I'm asking that.
No,
We're fine, we're fine.
Okay.
Um,
One more thing.
Yeah, one second.
I'm beating a dead horse here, but if we do take out Plainfield, is that just so happen where the sanitary pipe is broken?
Yes.
So we're already digging, we just fix it, and then it's like a double dip right there?
We have it has to be fixed. And so again, there's an advantage to incorporating this into the project because there are utility funds that are directly being paid for the improvement, which
Is that a repair, or are you replacing everything up
we're
to?
going to remove it and we'll put a mini lift station so we don't have that problem again. It's a bad idea to have it at the bottom.
Okay, I've got one more question, Connie.
It's not a question, I just want to say one thing. To live down there is to know the beauty of what's happening there, and I just wanted to share it, that to see these young guys on their bicycles, they're probably about 10 or 11, with their fishing poles, down there going by themselves, fishing, and then coming back. You know, it's worth everything that we've done to have that park there, because the kids are truly being kids and truly being able to enjoy it. And that's been the whole thing, to make sure that we're preserving something that's natural and it stays like that, and they can go out there and see what life was really like back in the day and really enjoy it. If you haven't been down there lately and seen that, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. And I thank everybody so much for wanting to preserve the park and wanting to preserve that area, and that's what it's all about. And so whatever we do, we got to make sure those guys can still fish. That's all.
More fish.
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to bring it to the council to see if they have anything. I do want to just mention something to Melissa here. Melissa, this is what we've been waiting on. And we just got it. So now's where the rubber meets the road. Anyone from council, do you have anything?
I do, I have a question. If you went with another design, what would the ballpark additional cost be to design? If you went to culverts, it's in here?
It's there.
Are the design fees in it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, got it. But we'd have a sunk cost of whatever we already spent. Okay. And that would be $1 million? $1.5 million?
What did we do, $1.2 million? How much was it, the design?
Three? Okay.
Yeah, there's a PO for the, what is it, 60% design?
Is it fit to Superior?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
It's like
No, 90%.
90%.
90%.
About, I think
Do you
it's
have
like
anything?
1.3 million is the total purchase order.
Okay. Yes, got it. Okay, Ken?
I guess I'll just say this. Both me and Councilman here, we inherited this. And so,
We inherited it.
I mean, we all did. I mean, but at the end of the day, yeah, I don't think anybody likes to spend money, really. But would you neglect maintenance on your home for 50 years? And we wouldn't. It just so happens this is a little more expensive than a home repair. I see the options. Boy, I would hate to incur additional design costs because we're trying to a la carte something. Look, at the end of the day, I mean, I think this is I think verbatim it was called kick the can down the road. And I'm sure there were some glory days in the town that this could have been a lot cheaper. There have been a lot of spirited conversations, but there will be no right answer. To repair, to save money, to spend, to not spend. There's just no right answer. And all that we can do is listen to everyone's opinion at every workshop we do and try to make the best decision in that moment. That is all that we can do. And when we make that decision, we live with it. And so, yeah, should we dredge? Should we do this? Should we do that? We should do a lot of things. But I don't know if we can not do nothing. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, it's good information. I appreciate the numbers. You'll never. I don't know if you'll ever truly have like an exact per se, because I think that people are just stuck on like, I want the bottom dollar. It's never going to be there. But look, yeah, it's like it, love it, hate it. You got to do something. So, go ahead. Sorry.
I have one more. The 14.7, is that value engineered down for materials? So, well, to be clear, the pictures with the big fancy rocks and the kayaks going underneath it and the nice wrought iron railings, that's a bigger number than what we're actually looking at. We've value engineered this project to the bottom, kind of?
That's correct. So that is not the fancy picture.
That's just a picture.
Thank you.
It is still a bridge. There are still possibilities to maybe do some of the Ready Rock, which is a Clay County vendor.
Right.
The rest would be riprap, which again, we could get locally. But yes, it is value engineered.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, do you have anything?
I think most of you have already stated pretty well everything I was thinking about. I will say that one of the things I consider, like Councilman Venabelt, who said, would you wait 50 years to do maintenance on your house? One of the things that concern me is, in fact, it's about the property. It's about the surrounding property. If we do nothing, we're not doing anything for the value of those homes. We're not doing anything for the value of the future of those homes. And I'm at that age where I'm going to sell my house eventually, and I don't live right there. But I want whoever buys my home to want to live there as long as I've lived there, to love this town and love the neighborhood and love their home like I do. And I think most of you who've lived a long time in your homes like I have may feel the very same way. We have that pride and sense of ownership. Are these homes going to disappear, the neighborhood disappear at some point because we did nothing because a road collapsed, because we did nothing, because it's own muck, because we can't get into the park anymore, that was at one time a home, but became a park. How do we think about the future of this and what that means? And that's a concern for me about what tact we take for resolving and solving this current dilemma that we're in about how to proceed. It's what the future looks like. I think if we're going to invest money, and it's all multi-million dollars, if we're going to invest a dime, I think we need to do it right for the fact that it makes the land values for the homeowners more stable for the long term. To me, that's what I think about anyway. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to cut it short. They said a lot. Everybody said a lot. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. As you can see, this is a big decision. And whatever decision's made, it needs to be the right one, because there's no going back to change our minds. The only thing I would like to add is to challenge the town manager and Kyle to still continue pushing value engineering. And I'm still not happy with the totals, and I get it, but we're going to have to make a decision soon. And but I would like to see the prices come down some more. So other than that, does anybody have any last words to say before we adjourn? Oh, Melba, go ahead.
Last but not least, I want to just say that over all of the years, I've been to a lot of meetings about this project, and I really do appreciate the town management being very thorough in their obtaining of information, of studies, of engineering consultations and such as that. I think you've done a great job of due diligence over all of the years and all of the meetings. And I appreciate that you're offering us the opportunity for input. I also appreciate the fact that it is time to act. We have put off this decision for way too long. And my home is directly impacted by everything happening on Johnson Slough. So I'm particularly keen on us moving to a decision as quickly as possible and initiating the project as quickly as possible. I have just moved all my children into that very neighborhood, so I'd like their homes to be taken care of for the next couple of decades or more. So I very much appreciate what you all have done, and I really hope that you will consider that we need to do it right, and we need to bear the cost here so that our children later are not bearing a bigger cost.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Melba. Go ahead, Finance Director.
Just wanted to correct the record. I haven't spoken too much tonight, but this is a big one. So I misspoke. The ARPA funds that were obligated for the Superior construction was $1.7 million, not 1.3. That's a big difference. Okay, just wanted to correct.
Nothing else? Okay, again, thank everyone for coming out. Thank you.